Ben Shapiro has a take on this as well. Shapiro reacts to Biden's Afghanistan troop withdrawal. I'm sure it will be clear, well-defined, coherent, and sound like someone sucked a helium balloon.
The North Vietnamese army. It is not at all comparable.
It is extremely comparable. It turns out that when the United States ends a war, our opponents don't. We'll be back in there in 6 months. In fact,
we're not.
As it turns out, we might be back in there inside of 6 hours. After 20 long years in Afghanistan, the United States is pulling out. We're not pulling out for a good reason.
What? We're not pulling out for a good reason, which is that we negotiated to leave and it's been 20 years.
It'd be one thing if there was some actual strategy attached to this.
Yeah, there is a strategy. The strategy is we're leaving. You can come with us if you want to. We've been talking about this for years. This time we mean it.
Or if the United States were actually achieving some sort of sensible goal.
Yes, we do have a sensible goal. Not being in Afghanistan.
The United States, however, is not doing any of that.
No.
The United States is withdrawing from Afghanistan at a time when this is no longer among America's endless wars. In order for a war to be considered endless, you actually have to be in a state of continual warfare. The United States currently has, or did have until Joe Biden announced to withdraw, 3,500 troops in Afghanistan.
25, but yeah, numbers.
The last combat casualties in the United States from American soldiers in Afghanistan was on February 8th, 2020. It is currently August 2021.
Yeah, why aren't we staying there? I mean, run that by me again, kiddo.
And was on February 8th, 2020.
February 8th, 2020.
States from American soldiers in Afghanistan was on February 8th, 2020.
Which was, if you don't have a calendar, 4,000 years ago.
United States from American soldiers in Afghanistan was on February 8th, 2020.
Yeah, I mean, what is it? A couple dead soldiers a year. Come on.
It is currently August 2021. That is not an active combat zone. You're more likely to be killed as a cop in Chicago than you are to be killed as a combat soldier in Afghanistan if you're...
Yeah, but if you're a cop in Chicago, you're fighting crime in Chicago. That's in our country. That's part of our stuff. We're not... But please, tell me why we need to stay.
American right now. Okay, but Joe Biden decided he wanted a win. And because he wanted a win, and I don't even know what he thought the win was going to be, we were going to...
Well, the win would be to end a 20-year war.
Pull out precipitously from Afghanistan. Now, I understand the argument that we were never going to achieve our goal in Afghanistan if our goal was defined as nation building. This was never...
but since we're never going to achieve that goal, why not stay?
Never going to be a thriving democracy. It is literally the most tribal place on earth. There's no history of democracy or liberality or human rights. Those things just were not there until the United States got there. And so the idea that we were going to graft Western institutions onto very inhospitable soil, that always seemed like a bit of a pipe dream. But there is still a rather large-scale American interest in Afghanistan.
You mean lithium and poppies?
If you recall why we first went there, we didn't
Al-Qaeda?
Go there to build democracy in Afghanistan.
Right.
We went there in order to deny Al-Qaeda a staging base. And because we had not done that in the 1990s, Al-Qaeda used Taliban-occupied Afghanistan as a staging base for 9/11. And having 3,500 troops taking control of the Kandahar Air Force Base, for example, and ensuring that the United States had the ability to send out drone strikes.
We do have the ability to send out drone strikes. We just don't do it from inside the country.
The ability to
We would do it from boats. We don't need to.
Work with the Afghan military to stage attacks on terror bases. The ability to train the Afghan military.
Well, in theory, all the intel we were giving them was getting to the Taliban.
And provide them backup and weaponry if they were going to take on potential threats to the United States. That was always the primary goal. Again, the goal was never primarily to turn Afghanistan into a democracy. The problem is over time, because politicians have a very difficult time just expressing what America's interest is in terms of foreign policy.
And our interest is trying to turn that country into a country.
American politicians tend to speak in high-flown, beautiful terms about the rise of democracy.
And you just talk in a high-pitched voice.
And the rise of human rights and all the rest of this. But if you make that your primary driver, then you do become the world's policeman, and people start to miss why we went into Afghanistan in the first place, which is that Al-Qaeda killed 3,000 Americans on 9/11, and we said to the Taliban, turn over Osama bin Laden, and they refused to do so, and so we deposed the dictators there.
And he was in Pakistan.
The Taliban, we replaced them with the Northern Alliance. There was a sort of proto-democracy happening there.
Proto-democracy. That's a lovely way of putting it.
In other words, we let our failure with the secondary goal of establishing a thriving democracy in Afghanistan overtake our primary goal, which is to continue to provide a base of operations against terrorists in Afghanistan.
Yeah, we don't need a physical base in Afghanistan to do that. Seriously. We can do airstrikes, drone strikes. We can Moab the shit out of people and never go anywhere near their country.
And so now we are withdrawing for no discernible purpose at all. And the immediate effect of this, as it was always destined to be, is that the Taliban are rushing right back in and taking over. According to the Associated Press today, the Taliban captured 2 major Afghan cities, the country's second and third largest after Kabul, and a strategic provincial capital on Thursday, further squeezing the embattled government just weeks before the end of the American military mission in Afghanistan. Remember, Joe Biden, for some odd reason, decided that he wanted to withdraw all American troops by September 11th, which
it gave us an extra 30 days past the May 1st date. It was an arbitrary date, but it's a good one, considering that was the launch, that was the reason.
I don't even understand the symbolism there.
You don't?
What in the hell is the symbolism there?
What could be the symbolism of getting out before we officially hit 21 years on 9/11?
The symbolism of, here's the group of people who harbored the people who committed 9/11. We're going to pull out on the 20th anniversary of that date and hand the place back to those people. How is that even a symbolic win?
Well, it wasn't the Taliban, it was Al-Qaeda, and they don't exist there in the same way. And also, if the Taliban runs the country as it stands, we don't really have a worry about, counterterrorism strikes inside that country, the way we would have to kind of negotiate with the current Afghan government if that happened in the southern region. With the Taliban running it, we would just go, fuck you, we see them.
Like, who was the constituency for this? It's
America.
always been a promise that politicians have made, right? Obama made
Yes, I'm playing this on 78 speed. This is the nice thing about Ben Shapiro is that he saves us time because it's a good freeze frame as they go.
promised he was going to withdraw from Afghanistan. Then he increased troops because it turns out being the president comes with seeing the intel reports. And then Donald Trump said he was going to pull out of Afghanistan. And then necessity meant that we had to keep troops in Afghanistan.
Is that what it was? Necessity.
And then Joe Biden, because he's a dullard, decided we're just going to go ahead with this. And it doesn't matter what comes next.
No, it does. It does. And what isn't going to come next is more dead soldiers in Afghanistan for years to come.
Which is completely short-sighted. And I don't even see the political calculus here. Because the American...
Well, that's because you're dumb. I mean, let me be abundantly clear. Ben Shapiro knows what he's saying right now is bullshit. He's not incapable of logical thought or reason. He's just an asshole. And so he's pretending he can't see the political calculus on this. And he would support the political calculus if it was one of his dudes in charge. I think all of us, I think Democrats would have had a moment of, now I've got to agree with Trump if he'd have gotten everybody out and done basically the same thing. We probably would have been clamoring about a plan as well, but the reality would have been the same.
People don't tend to care about foreign policy until the heads start coming off.
What?
Let's hear. Because the American people don't tend to care about foreign policy until the heads start coming off.
Oh, we don't. I didn't realize none of us gave a shit for the last 20 fucking years. What? This has been Trump ran on getting out. Obama ran on getting out and shutting down Gitmo. Like all these things. By the way, Biden's going to shut down Gitmo too. Just prep yourself for that one. By the end of the year, would be my guess when they start talking about it. But how in the fuck? We don't care until the heads start coming off? The American people, literally, that was Chris Matthews supported Trump's talk about Afghanistan and Iraq because we were going to get the fuck out. Jesus.
Right? That's the point where we care about foreign policy.
No. We care about foreign policy because we can see that it's leading to more heads coming off.
So America doesn't care about what's going on in Syria. But if the media start blanketing the TV with James Foley being beheaded in Syria, suddenly the American people are deeply concerned about
Well, awareness will certainly bring stuff to the forefront.
what's happening in Syria. 500,000 civilians can die in Syria, and we won't give a damn.
No, it's not that we don't give a damn, but we have no control over it. It's not our country.
But the minute that an American gets beheaded, suddenly we want our troops on the ground doing something about it.
Yeah, it's an American. Yeah. It's amazing how most countries don't get involved in the affairs of other countries unless those countries kill people from their country. It's a uniquely American thing.
Right? If there is tape that comes out of the Yazidis being attacked by ISIS, then all of a sudden we say, why can't we do something about that?
Right. Because there are enough crises in the world at any given time for us to, like, spin our fucking heads around about, that when a new one shows up, we're like, oh my God, that's terrible. Because it is. That doesn't mean that the solution is always for us to be there. That doesn't mean that the solution is going to be troops. It might be aid. It might be dealing with the refugees on the border of those countries as they try to escape, like the Yazidis.
See, America is good-hearted, but only in short spurts.
Yeah. I mean, we're only... And by the way, Ben, I would avoid saying phrases like short spurts. No, America is good-hearted for the long haul. And one of the things that's been breaking our fucking hearts is being in Afghanistan for 2 goddamn decades. We didn't all decide that Afghanistan was a problem because they started showing video of it. What the fuck are you talking about? The only reason this asshole is even talking about Afghanistan right now is because Biden's pulling people out and there's video coming in. This is why he's reacting.
So I don't
Short spurt.
understand what Biden even thinks he is doing here.
I do. So does everyone else. The world is not dictated. Reality is not constructed on shit Ben Shapiro doesn't understand.
Because you know what the next footage is going to be, and it's going to be of Taliban fighters beheading people. We'll be back in there in 6 months. In fact, as it turns out, we might be back in there inside of 6 hours.
You already said that part.
The United States is going to have to put thousands of troops on the ground to evacuate the U.S. Embassy
Yeah, but that was already the plan. They knew that. They have 6,000 troops. That's what they're going to do.
in Kabul. According to the Associated Press, the seizure of Kandahar and Herat marks the biggest prizes yet for the Taliban, who have taken 12 of Afghanistan's 34 provincial capitals.
Provincial capitals. 34 provinces in Afghanistan. 34. Country has 38 million people in it. 34 provinces. China, wait, hold on. I want to make sure the number is right. Let's see. Yeah. China has 22. China has 22 provinces. And 5 major areas where they're all, some of the provinces are folded into, regional governors and like 22. Fucking Afghanistan has how many? What was that again? You jackass.
And Herat marks the biggest prizes yet for the Taliban. According to the Associated Press, the seizure of Kandahar and Herat marks the biggest prizes yet for the Taliban, who have taken 12 of Afghanistan.
By the way, that base color for you is all wrong. There's too many greens in it. I know you think it evens your skin tone out, but it doesn't. It makes you the same color as the lamp. I'm not kidding. There's nothing wrong with wearing makeup on camera. I have zero problem with that, male or female. This is not about that. It's about you're always on. You should know your colors by now. You should know your skin tone by now. And you should have contingencies for when you get paler because you haven't been in the sun, and warmer colors for when you have. All right. Son of a bitch.
Stands at 34 provincial capitals as part of
34. 34 provincial capitals. China has 22. 38 million people. Tell me again how this isn't a tribal, not like it's Max Factor Greece. Tell me how this isn't just tribal factions warring with each other.
A week-long blitz. The capture of the city of Ghazni, meanwhile, cuts off a crucial highway linking the Afghan capital, Kabul, with the country's southern provinces, all part of an insurgent push some 20 years after.
Yeah. No one from Kabul is going, quick, go south. It'll be safer there. Of course they claim that area. The fuck are you talking about? That's like saying the Confederacy claimed Chicago and they've cut off the one road that would take you straight to Mississippi. The fuck are you talking about? Tell me about if they stop you from swimming across Lake Michigan.
U.S. and NATO troops invaded and ousted the Taliban government.
Yes, Ben is just under 20 years younger than me. 25, he's 16 years younger than me, something like that.
While Kabul itself isn't under direct threat yet, the losses and the battles elsewhere further tighten the grip of a resurgent Taliban who are estimated to now hold over 2/3 of the country and continue to press their offensive. With security rapidly deteriorating, the United States planned to send in 3,000 troops to help evacuate some personnel from the U.S. Embassy in Kabul. So just to get this straight, we are withdrawing 3,500 troops so that we can send back in 3,000 troops to evacuate the U.S. Embassy.
Yeah, they're supporting those groups and then everybody's leaving. Yeah, for the safety of everybody involved. We have embassy people there. We're not going to leave the embassy there. We burned all our shit, smashed all our computers. We're fucking off. There's no government to actually have an ambassador in contact with. So, is that... No?
In Kabul. And then, when the videos hit the TV of all the women being lined up and shot by the Taliban, which is undoubtedly the next thing that is going to hit your TV, then presumably we'll be sending in another 3,000 troops.
Oh, will we? Or will the entire world and the UN meet about this, and then there'll be a gathering of multiple nations, and it won't be just us holding our dick in the sand?
Again. This is just a replay of Barack Obama's decision that we were going to pull all troops out of Iraq, and then ISIS took over, and voila, we were back in Iraq. It turns out that when the United States ends a war, our opponents don't.
Oh, okay, this is the clip he put on the top of the thing.
That is not how wars typically end.
Yeah. Yeah, if we leave, they'll just be left there to punch themselves in the face. If we're not there, who are they going to shoot?
If you declare that you have lost, your opponent simply fills the vacuum.
I don't know that we, quote unquote, declared that we have lost.
According to the Associated Press, thousands of Afghans...
By the way, according to Ben Shapiro, the Associated Press is part of the fake news, and it's got a liberal slant, and it's bullshit until he needs real news, and then that's what he has to read.
...have fled their homes amid fears the Taliban will again impose a brutal repressive government, all but eliminating women's rights and conducting public amputations, stonings, and executions.
Amputations?
Peace talks...
I guess it's hands for stealing. That's the...
...in Qatar remain stalled, though diplomats met throughout the day.
Sorry? What was that again?
Stonings and executions. Peace talks in Qatar remain stalled, though diplomats met throughout the day.
Okay, so there's other stuff going on. All right.
The latest U.S. military intelligence...
Yeah, it's just live. It's a live dinner theater versions of Saw. It's big in Taliban dinner theaters.
Assessment suggests Kabul could come under insurgent pressure within 30 days, and that if current trends hold, the Taliban could gain full control of the country within a few months. The Afghan government may eventually be forced to pull back to defend the capital and just a few other cities in the coming days if the Taliban keep up their momentum. The onslaught represents a stunning collapse of Afghan forces and renews questions about where the over $830 billion spent by the U.S. Defense Department on fighting, training those troops, and reconstruction efforts went.
Right, but here's Ben wanting you to spend more. That's right. Maybe it's just, you know what it was? It's not a waste of $850 billion. We just need to spend another $212 billion. How about that? Another...
Especially as Taliban fighters ride on American-made Humvees and pickup trucks with the M16s.
Pickup trucks? Yeah, I'm not... All right. I'm not going to worry about them getting a hold of pickup trucks.
Slung over their shoulders.
He has a strange cadence because he takes a lot of, like, Ritalin-style nootropics. I'm going to guess Adderall and the like. That's the speech cadence I'm used to hearing from people who jam that shit.
Just delightful, delightful stuff. Afghan lawmaker Samin Barkhazai announced...
Everybody has to keep from choking right after they say that.
The city's fall, saying some officials there had escaped. Witnesses described seeing Taliban fighters once detained at Herat's prison, now moving freely on the streets. In Kandahar, the Taliban seized the governor's office and other buildings.
I take Adderall, he's terrifying me. Yeah, but you take it under a doctor's prescription like you're supposed to. Yes, Adderall is a nootropic. All brain augmenting chemicals are technically nootropics. I don't recommend them. You know, be careful. But that's why those folks use it.
Witnesses said the governor and
Ritalin and Adderall and that kind of stuff. It's anything that hyper-focuses you.
other officials fled the onslaught, catching a flight to Kabul. They declined to be named publicly because the defeat has yet to be acknowledged by the government. The Taliban then opened up.
Yeah, why won't they admit defeat before they've been defeated?
All the prisons and let out all of the Taliban fighters who were there. Ghazni provincial council member Aminullah Kamrani alleged the provincial governor and police chief made a deal with the Taliban to flee after surrendering. Taliban video and photos purported to show the governor's convoy freely passing by insurgents as part of the deal. The Afghan Interior Ministry spokesperson, Mirwais Stanikzai,
But we should stay there.
later said the governor and his deputies had been arrested over that alleged deal. The officials could not be immediately reached for comment.
Yeah, they left.
So this is a full-scale disaster area.
Yeah, but we should stay.
The U.S. Air Force B-52 bombers, F-15 fighter jets, drones, and other aircrafts were involved in fighting across the country. So for all the
Yeah, like I said, we're strafe bombing and blowing up our shit. The stuff that's still there, the facilities that are still there, anybody that the Afghan forces stopped using because we gave them bases and we built some shit and we gave them gear, we're blowing that shit up right now on our way out of town. I don't know why this is fucking surprising to anyone. Of course that's what you would do.
talk about how we weren't involved in the fighting anymore, it turns out that we are involved in the fighting. We're just now losing.
No, we're not. We're bombing our shit as we leave so they can't use that stuff against other people or against Pakistanis or Iranians who are sheltering the women who have run across the border.
So well done, everybody. Also, NBC News is acknowledging that Al-Qaeda is rushing back in. Who could have predicted this except for every single sentient human being?
A little lady. Oh, look who knows so much. But he's only mostly dead. Yeah, they can rush back into the desert and we can strafe bomb them too, because that's what's going to happen. Like, that. What do you think Biden was talking about with the whole counterterrorism, not counterinsurgency? We're not going to be on the ground. We don't need to be there to do that stuff. To handle, am I the only person who watched Patriot games? For fuck's sake.
Of which Joe Biden doesn't belong in that cadre. He is not a sentient human being any longer. He is a houseplant. But
I don't understand things that are obvious to everyone else around me, but he's the one with cognitive disorders.
Reality remains reality.
Thanks. Sharp as a tack.
According to NBC News, with the Taliban steamrolling across Afghanistan, U.S. defense officials are concerned a Taliban takeover of the country will allow al-Qaeda to rebuild and consolidate, creating security concerns well outside Afghan borders.
Yeah, it's a worthwhile concern. That's why we'll do drone strikes or why we'll have aerial hits on them and that kind of stuff. And if the Taliban's helping them, they'll get blown up next to them. We still don't need to be in Kabul. We still don't need to pretend we're going to have an embassy. We're not going to be negotiating with the fucking Taliban. It's a tribal civil war. It's going to look like shit for a long time.
Borders.
By the way, do you think that Ben Shapiro would like us to be in the Congo or like us to be in Chad or any of the other African countries where there's constant civil wars? Huh? If so, why?
Nearly 20 years after it planned the September 11th attacks from Afghanistan, al-Qaeda has a diminished presence in the country. Senior officials say it's only 200 or 300 members. Or as Barack Obama might say, it's the JV squad.
Right.
Until it's not the JV squad anymore.
Well, yes. One would figure we would actually have to use the intelligence community, our Defense Department forces, our relationship with the UN and Interpol, and go back to what John Kerry was saying, which is this is a law enforcement issue, not a war on terror.
More. One of the officials said they're not really very large, or what we would consider a capable contingent, but the security vacuum left by the withdrawal of U.S. military forces could create an opening for al-Qaeda and other terrorist groups to reorganize, the officials say.
That's true. An asteroid could also hit the polar ice caps, and all the Dean Devlin movies could come true.
If the Taliban take over the government, intelligence about al-Qaeda is likely to become even scarcer. And while the U.S. will still maintain authority to strike al-Qaeda targets in Afghanistan, there's no U.S. presence on the ground, no Air Force base, which means we have to use neighboring countries to base our Air Force if we decide that we want to launch some strikes.
Right. So it'll take an extra half an hour. Is that a real problem, that we'll be in neighboring countries that we have treaties with where our personnel are safe? What the fuck is that? What is this argument? Honest to God, what is this argument? Why is he arguing that we need to have a base in Afghanistan? What kind of, like, Project for a New American Century bullshit is this?
According to Marine General Frank McKenzie, he said, what we're here to do is prevent al-Qaeda and ISIS from being able to reconstitute in the ungoverned spaces, generally of eastern Afghanistan, and be able to plot attacks against our home.
By the way, don't forget to like and subscribe, give a thumbs up, all that kind of stuff that I'm supposed to say when I'm doing a stream and I always forget to say. And also, thank you for the super chats, you guys, and thank you for the bits on Twitch. If you're over there, twitch.tv/HalSparks, you can sign up using Amazon Prime. Doesn't cost you a dime. This is what I have to do to not sell pillows.
Threat is still here today. He says if the pressure comes off, I believe they're going to regenerate. I think it's only a matter of time before we see them.
Yeah, I know. I thought at the end of Terminator 2 that the T-1000 was destroyed when the tanker truck, when full of liquid nitrogen, blew up. But I was wrong.
Assert themselves and begin to plan attacks against our homeland. And of course, that would be the predictable result. Remember, September 11th was the outgrowth of the United States' unwillingness to take on al-Qaeda after the USS Cole bombing, after the bombings of the American embassies in Kenya and Tanzania. You remember that Osama bin Laden...
He almost said Barack Obama.
And specifically said that the United States was a paper tiger.
Yeah, paper tiger. It's a paper receipt. Would you like it, or should I just email you the receipt?
And so the idea was that he had hit us over...
By the way, paper target is terrible. They don't have any fresh fruit. Every time I go to the store and it's windy outside, it's gone.
And over again, we hadn't done anything, so obviously we wouldn't do anything if he hit our towers, and if he hit the Pentagon.
Obviously.
And then we kind of shocked,
which no one ever thought ever.
Shocked him because we actually did quite a lot. But it's
yeah, that's it. If we had gone after Al Qaeda for what they did to the USS Cole more, according to Ben Shapiro, then they wouldn't have done 9/11. Huh?
It turns out that when you surrender territory to some of the worst people on earth, they don't take that as you just want peace. They take that as you are weak and you are foolish, and then they come after you.
Okay, yeah. Excellent reason why we should punish everybody who was present on January 6th. Just gonna put a little pin in that.
There's this sort of wishful thinking that goes into so much of our foreign policy these days, that if we just do the things that we want to do, everybody else will just fall into line. That is crazy.
Yeah, it would be crazy if anybody actually thought like that.
By the way,
by the way, this is the asshole arguing for us to just do what we want to do and everybody will fall in line.
Chances right now that the United States Embassy ends up falling to the Taliban, really, really high. Maybe we avoid the sort of insane imagery of the fall of Saigon, where people are attempting to climb onto helicopters, but that will only be because we station 3,000 Marines outside the U.S. Embassy while we evacuate the place, and then we leave an empty building for the Taliban to dance inside of.
Yeah, and nothing's worse than dancing in an empty building.
Joe Biden.
How can you imagine them dancing in our empty building? That sounds like a euphemism.
Says you won't see us helicoptering people off roofs. Well, I have a feeling that we're going to see something very similar.
Do you see any parallels between this withdrawal and what happened in Vietnam, with some people feeling...
None whatsoever. Zero. What you had entire brigades breaking through the gates of our embassy. 6, if I'm not mistaken. The Taliban is not the North Vietnamese army. They're not remotely comparable in terms of capability. There's going to be no circumstance where you see people being lifted off the roof of a embassy of the United States.
Yeah, and we're not.
From Afghanistan. It is not at all comparable.
It is extremely comparable. What do you mean they don't have the same capabilities? You mean the capabilities that Ho Chi Minh's army had when they invaded South Vietnam and then took the capital?
Yes. They do not have that same capability.
You mean exactly?
They are not even these. Each one of these assholes doesn't have a radio.
Exactly the same thing that the Taliban are doing exactly right now?
Except they're not.
What sense is this any different?
I would say that the North Vietnamese army has a political motive, not a psychosexual one. That the country, that we waited till the last second and we let it drag out forever. And we decided not to take the chance to leave earlier like we would be doing now. Like this, the Afghanistan exit would look a lot more like Saigon if we did it a year from now and continue to say, any day now. We're going to leave any day now. We're going to leave any day now. We're going to leave any day now.
Like, really, is there any difference at all? It's exactly.
Yes. Communism and the push from the North Vietnamese with Chinese backing versus the Taliban, which is multiple tribes loosely stitched together who are basically looking to set up rape camps.
Exactly the same thing. We were achieving many of our objectives in Afghanistan, mainly the objective to maintain a base of operations.
That was not our objective. Maintaining a base of operations was never an objective. It was not.
With which to fight terrorism, just as we had achieved many of our objectives in South Vietnam. And then political actors decided that surrender was preferable to any form of success. And so they just pulled out precipitously while proclaiming victory. It's insane. I hope
that
you enjoyed that clip.
I didn't. I was miserable through most of it. Thanks, Ben. Thanks for asking. I thought it was ridiculous. I thought it was poorly thought out. I thought you used a lot of doublespeak. I think you overlapped your own reasoning a couple of times, and you never made clear what you would have done, which is part of the argument here. I've already stated unequivocally and clearly that my response would have been very similar to what Biden's doing, and that's why I'm relieved by what he's doing, while I can still look at the humanitarian crisis that exists there and look for other solutions rather than bullets and bayonets to that crisis. And so, yeah, that's it. And also, good luck with puberty. I hear it hurts when it happens late.
From the Ben Shapiro Show.